Kurni, can you allow it?
Yeah, I think Uni has to allow it.
Yeah.
I was on mute. So let me check the share screen option. It is not showing me anything that did you ask for any permission, or I do not know actually how it works.
Basically, give him, so basically, I think you have to give him permission, like I think through host control or something. So there is a setting where you have to go and just check, like I think give him host control or something.
Okay.
There is a screen. Yeah.
I am trying to go to the settings and try to figure out how to give him the floor.
Yeah.
Video. Can you share now, Lobsang? I have tried to give it.
Right.
You can share, right? Or is there anything?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Great.
Guni, also, can you please spell Lobsang's
Yes,
something so
I
that
am trying to do that. Also, I can make Lobsang and you both co-host. That's also an option that I can see.
Yeah, you can also control the host setting. That's not a problem from my end.
No, I can make you co-host and
Just spell Lobsang's window so that in the video it.
yes, I am trying to see at pin. Yes, I think he's pinned now on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Lobsang, can you turn on your camera?
Just give me a second. Okay.
Yeah.
You
The
can
screen
see
is
your
visible.
presentation. Yes.
Yes.
Wait. I'll have to. I can't see my face.
We can
Yeah,
see
we
you.
can see you. Yeah. Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah. Just give me a sec. I'll fix this
Yeah,
first.
Archana, you can start streaming, okay?
Yeah.
Great. Can we start then?
I have admitted all the people who wanted to join basically. So
Yeah. We can start and then maybe other people can join.
we can start. Yeah, I think so because it's 1 minute past, and then if other people join, then I can admit or yeah.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely. Lobsang, you're also ready, na?
Yeah. Yes. Just give me. I'm having trouble with this thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Now is it showing?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is showing perfectly.
Yes. Yeah. You guys can start. Should I start?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can start now. Okay, right. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to Socioscopia's academic discussion series. This is our second session, you can say, and the speaker today is very special. He is a very close friend of mine, and very talented and intelligent person. He is Lobsang. He's currently doing his PhD at CSSS Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and his primary research interests revolve around urban studies, sociology of emotions, race and sexuality studies, with a focus on the intersections of identity, migration, and marginality. Today, Lobsang is going to present one of his recently published papers, and the paper focuses on queer migrant men from Northeast India. Drawing on digital ethnography, it analyzes how the intersection of urban life and dating apps such as Grindr shapes distinct forms of racialized gay masculinity and affective responses. So I would like to welcome Lobsang once again. And if you are ready, you can start your presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Yaggiseni, for my research interesting or whatever. Yeah. So the theme of my talk or academic discussion is called Racialized Queer Masculinities among Northeast Indian migrant men in urban digital space. So basically, it's part of my PhD research, but in particularly, what I am interested in looking at this form of looking at this research is to understand how does digital dating space in particular, reinforces this idea of stereotypes against Northeast migrants from the region, and how does it informs or rather substantiates this idea of a racialized queer masculinity. So basically, my paper is called it's been published by Brill. It's called Queering Urban Space by Jessica Albrecht and Sanchali Sarkar. And the title of my chapter is called Only Northeast Contact: Navigating the Racialization of Northeast Indians on Gay Dating Apps in Delhi. So to begin with, to begin with, I would like to talk about how and what are the types of dating apps that are prevalent, queer dating apps, gay dating apps that are prevalent in India. So basically, there's a lot of growth in gay dating apps in India, such as Grindr, So the researches have been done on this idea of the transgressiveness of this idea of what Grinder entails, in a very homophobic and country like India. So, and how this informs this rather really, marginalized urban queer sexuality in India. So, therefore, it's like a Janus face nature of gay dating apps, as it's both subversive and also it's conventional in the sense that the kind of discussions, the kind of uh, work or the kind of things that of course Grinder, as we see, as queer dating apps, if we think it's very subversive, it's very transgressive, but what we see here, with all the researches that have been done on dating apps in India, dating apps particularly on gay dating apps, we see this they inform, or rather they facilitates a larger form of marginalization when it comes to body types, when it comes to race, when it comes to sexuality, right? So that is why it's like an underside of gay digital dating apps, and it's an underside of a digital intimacy on the apps. And what my research looks into is to understand how does queer Northeast migrants who have migrated to cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata to pursue education or pursue jobs, employment, how do they navigate this questions of marginality, questions of racialization, and questions of being queer in the city like Delhi, right? And the process of racialization. So my sort of I the research for this paper was developed when I got to know about Grinder when I was very like 18, 19 in Delhi. And then how does these, especially on profile bios, you would see people saying specifically, like I'll show you in this, it's called Only Northeast Contact, looking for Northeast guys, any smooth Northeastern. So that are the kind of dialogue that are, people are projecting the profile bios through which these things are things that are racist, of course, things that are exotic, like, you're fetishizing some region of India. And why is there this idea of fetishization among Northeastern men regarding their sexuality, regarding their racial categories, right? So this is where I sort of drew inspiration from this for this chapter and for this research, and how and what ways does exoticization, fetishization, and racialization informs this idea of a queer racialized masculinity, right? And so basically, what I have tried to look at is how racial fetishization and exoticization on the app and crisis of masculinity impacts this idea of a racialized emotions. I'm drawing from Bonilla Silva's work here. So basically, what I've tried to look at is these three categories of analytical categories to understand and to further, research on this area. So yes, so this is how the structure of the paper is. First, I'm going to talk about some related works that refers to Northeastern migrants in Delhi, Kolkata, and Bombay. And then I'll talk about some related works related to queer dating apps, major works that have been done on queer dating apps. The second thing that I want to talk about will be the research methods and data collection that I had incorporated in my research, and how and in what ways did I use them, in what location. So that are the nitty-gritty and intricacies of what my research entailed, and how did I drew my conclusions and inferences from. So the three things that you can see is the problematizing the exoticization of Northeast Indian queer men are the sort of questions I'm looking at. The first is the exoticization of queer men. The second is the question of masculinity, and third is the affective politics of racialization. So this is how the structure of the paper is. Related works. So basically, there have been a plethora of work that have documented the trials of Northeast Indian migrants in urban spaces, particularly with their trials with racism in particular, right? So Duncan Matura's seminal work on Northeast Indian migrants is I've incorporated a lot from his work, and his work is exemplary in the way he understands is that a proper ethnographic study in northeastern neighborhoods, colloquially known as northeastern neighborhoods in Delhi, such as Humayunpur and Munirka. And there he did a proper ethnography for 3 years to understand what are the problems, what are through which problems, and the ways through which they're negotiating their identity, negotiating their marginality in a city like Delhi. And also, Rohini Rai's paper is also very important in this regard, in which she talks about the start under theorization of race in India, because race as a category in India, in particular to Northeast Indian, especially in academia, people, it's very problematic in some sense, because they would not like to talk about race in that. So there's a lack of theorization on race, particularly in Northeast India. And Rohini Rai also has worked on this idea of racial spatialization in ethnic neighborhoods in Delhi. So similar to the work of Duncan Ventura's. And similar to Rohini Rai's work on racialized attacks and stuff, there's also another paper by Papuri Bora, in which she talks about how racism is a structural problem in India, and it's not always something that can be alluded to as a cultural difference, but it has a very real consequences for people who are impacted by it. So there is a need to address these questions of racism against Northeast Indians from a structural level, is what Papalipura talks about. And then Mongolian fringe includes everyone who had a Mongolite phenotypes, right? Whether it would be from the Northeast, from Ladakh, from Himachal, from Uttarakhand. So this is what Gergen and Nabel and Smith talks about in this thing. And Kikon, Dolly Kikon is one of the most important people who are working on Northeast India in current times, and her work is I mean, there have been many works she has done on race in Northeast in urban spaces like that. But I'm particularly interested in her understanding of how dietary consumptions impacts and informs racialization among Northeast migrants in Delhi. So, and then how Kip's work on racist attack during COVID-19 is also very integral to my understanding. All right. So the second thing is studies on queer dating apps. I mean, there are plethora of work that have been done on queer dating apps in the world and in India, but I'm particularly interested in looking at Rohidas Gupta's work on digital queer cultures in India. Das Gupta is work is perhaps one of the first book, a very seminal book to understand how digital queer cultures in India, especially in the urban locales of Delhi and Kolkata, exist, and how do people, especially queer men in her study, navigate their sexuality in urban spaces, and how does dating apps such as Grindr, such as Planet Romeo, informs or rather facilitates their ideas of sexuality and marginality in in India, right? And there's another paper by Forbes and Stacy, which I particularly found helpful in my research to incorporate, is it's on sexual racism on dating apps, basically. So what they're looking at is how racism proliferates on these apps, on dating apps, especially in American. They're talking about in American context, especially Black American context, of how racism against Black people in America proliferates on dating apps such as Grindr, and how they're fetishized, how they're exoticized on these apps, and so I draw a lot from their work in my particular research as well. And honestly, Connor's work is also very important in talking about dating app as an act of performance. So, because in these dating apps, to give you a brief rundown of what Grindr is actually, Grindr is basically for people don't go there to form relationships. People go there to form quick sexual pleasure or hookups in some regards, right? So in that case, your profile has to be very tempting for people to follow you and reach out to you. So how does so Connor talks about it through the lens of Evan Goffman's idea of performativity, of how you're performing on this app. You have to put an image of yourself or not. You can put a torso, a pic of a torso, and then a bio should be this, talk about something that related to sexual innuendos and stuff like that. So this is what he talks about. And also Tom Roach, in another paper by Tom Roach, he talks about how there's a lot of self optimization and brand creation on these apps, because you're actually performing, right? You're performing to cater to a large pool of people who would be interested in you, right? So how do you self optimize? You self optimize by clicking a very risque picture of yourself, or and also he talks about how this idea of being on the app, it's itself a product of a neoliberal, it's a product of neoliberalism, because in neoliberalism we're also self-optimizing, because if you do not optimize, you will be redundant, you will be obsolete in some regards. So there's this constant thing to self-optimize for brand creation, and this is what Roach talks about. So going back to my research, this is my research methods and data collection. So I have utilized Jack Haberstrom's idea of scavenger methodology. So basically, scavenger methodology talks about, so basically it talks about how when there are no researches or very less researches on people on or sexual minorities, right? you have to, just like a scavenger, you have to fend for yourself. You have to look at different avenues to collect data for a particular, you know, phenomena that you want to study. So this is what scavenger methodology is. So you talked about, you utilize a lot of methods. You utilize a lot of methodologies. You utilize a lot of methods to uncover, or rather understand.
And then
Yeah.
uh,
So yeah, so this is what I was looking at. And also I was looking at lurking as a methods by Mola. So in which a participant or a researcher does not necessarily take part. So what I did for my research was I made an account on Grindr, and then I did not actually interact with anyone. I just made a profile. I just said that I'm looking for research participants or anything, like I'm here just for research purpose, right? But I wasn't interacting with anyone on the app. I was just lurking as a method. Is what I found very interesting in digital ethnography is how basically your idea of content analysis through just participating, but also not participating. That is what lurking as a method means. And the study basically was conducted within the span of 3 months and was majorly located in areas of Southwest Delhi. And then content analysis of 25 Grindr profiles, which mentioned a specific preference for Northeastern men in their bios, were selected. So, as I showed you in the earlier slide, right, there's specific mention of only Northeast contact, any NE means Northeast, like Northeast wanted, only Northeastern smooth boys contact me. So that is what the kind of my data pool was. So I sort of randomly selected 25 Grindr profiles which mentioned a very specific preference for Northeastern men in their bios. And then out of which, later on, I sent like 6, 7 advertisement on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook for participants, because I wanted to include, understand and do an in-depth analysis with interviews and stuff. So 6 interview participants from the Northeast were selected for the research. Yeah. So I'll show you the table. So these are the table. There are like 25 Grindr profiles, and this is what they're asking, like only any sucker, I love any bottom, looking for Northeast guys, strong daddy, something like that. So basically looking for young guys, only NE. And top with plays, prefer Northeast people, only Asians with no facial hair, only Northeast bottom boys. So these are the things that you keep encountering and on these apps. And then it's a 25, and most of my people used to be, locations are based in Southwest Delhi, like Vasantganj, Munirka, Safdarjung, Mahibalpur. So yeah. So this is from drawing from the 25 Grindr profiles and the 6 interview participants. These are the three. One of the things that I'm looking at is how does exoticization play out on the app. So racist appetite, such as Chinky and the question of Indian face, has been talked about innumerable times by scholars, and they're looking at how what does the Indian face constitutes, right? Does it include phenotypes that are from different than what is an Indian face, what a brown Indian face is? So this is what was my entry point for this particular section of the paper. And so also I also looked at how Butler's theorization of Julia Kristeva's work on abject looks at abject. Like abject is for Butler, it's not something, it's just uninhabitable places, right? Where there's a boundarization, where a subject becomes an object in some sense, right? So in case of Northeast migrants, they are queer Northeast migrant. Abjection works in twofold. Is it basically a twofold process? First, they're abject. They're considered as an abject because of their racialization, because of their racial phenotype, and secondly, because of their sexual minority, because of their sexuality. right? So this is a twofold process according I'm drawing from Butler. And how this, reification of exoticization of a grinder occurs is through this constant idea of, demanding for a Northeast boy or a Northeast bottom, only Northeast wanted. So you won't encounter, I mean, in that sense, right? So this is what one of my participants said. As a Northeastern, it's hard to form genuine connection on the app. And, people from my, like the participants talk about how they've been, rejected because of being a Northeastern, because of, people not having this in idea that, oh, they're not as, I mean, there's a difficulty in forming of connection that goes beyond just hookups, is what they've lamented and talked to me. They will reject me after seeing my picture. That's a very common thing. Like it's therefore I feel from what I talk about is how this racial fetishization or racial exoticization would is basically a twofold process, right? In one point, you are exoticized and you're desired. Your body becomes this idea of, as a site of desirability because you are exotic, right? And on the other hand, it also becomes this idea of it also becomes a site of abject, a site of disgust for people because you're like, oh, you're from Northeast. I do not want to hook up with you. I do not want to go out on a date with you. But also, so it's like a very, elusive and a very weird position to be at as a Northeastern on the app. Yeah. So therefore, like what I developed in this section is what is the construction of an ideal Northeastern gay body? Because, when my participants talk about how they've been rejected because they don't fit into that category of a Northeastern men, because they assume just because there's this sort of stereotype that goes around with people from the Northeast that they're docile and, so when they do not agree to that stereotype, they sort of disavow that idea. That is where this people would reject my participants. Basically, they would outrightly reject them and be like, no, you're not the kind of Northeastern I'm looking for. You're not the person I want to go out with because, you're fat, you're ugly, or, that sort of thing. So this is what a lot of my participants told me about. So the construction of a Northeastern gay body is someone who is effeminate, someone who is outwardly, Mongoloid, chinky. This is what I'm looking at, and someone who has no body hair, someone who has no facial hair, someone who, is very docile, right? If you do not fit into that category of a Northeastern, you are basically not accepted. I'm not generalizing it, but this is what my participants have informed me, that you're not accepted in that sense of being a Northeastern. Therefore you can't, they cannot exoticize you enough. Yes. So now I want to look at the questions of masculinity, right? So identities on the fringes, a question of masculinity among Northeast migrants. So this is the second section of what I'm doing of my paper. So Duncan McDura has talked about how tribal masculinity, when people, Northeastern migrants who have men who have migrated from Northeast to cities like Delhi and urban spaces, they have, they're away from their idea of what a traditional masculine role is, because, now you're basically in a different place, a different urban space, and also your gender relations are quite different with the women, Northeastern women that you have. There's a sort of gender difference in gender relation as compared to when you are back at home in your. So this is what McDura talked about in respect to tribal masculinity, and then hegemonic masculinity is the formation of, a dominant form of masculinity that is present in a city like Delhi, for example, right? Masculinity that is virile, that is considered, with mustaches. I mean, this is the kind of masculinity that we particularly assign with dominant or like an hegemonic masculinity, right? So this is in contrast to what a masculinity of Northeastern men is, in particular to queer migrants from the region. So there is also this emphasis on, if you look at in the previous slide I shared about how there was like, no girlish, no smooth body, no hairy things that are mentioned in the profile bios, right? So it's these very articulations that on these profile bios is what is, what uh, Connell would call is as emphasize femininity towards the body, because you were emphasizing these sort of feminine traits towards the body of a Northeastern gay man, so that you can feel, I don't know, you can have this subject position by objectivizing a particular, you know, racial minority. So, and also this idea of, this, there's a particular linkage between femininity and its linkage with subordination in respect to what my participants had to say and what the profile bios suggest, right? So this is one of like my one of my participants really highlighted this another point. He said, I think because of how men from Northeast are perceived as having feminine traits, it kind of gives them a sense of comfort that they're not really affirming to homosexual acts rather than just having sex with a woman. So I thought that was a very poignant understanding of, you know, how do men who are on these apps, who won't necessarily assign themselves as this category of queer, in particular, but when they are on the app, they would try to find people who, men from Northeast, who are feminine in nature, so that they won't feel in a way, disavowed, or rather disavowed from that idea that they're doing a homosexual act. So basically, they're just having with a woman. So this is what, which I found very poignant in my participants, and they said, yeah. So the third section, which is sort of like the final section, is to look at. So I'm trying to understand it through the lens of uh, affects and through the lens of affective responses. Because when you're interacting, when you're taking interviews with your participants, you tend to feel that some of these things that they're saying, it has a very lasting impact on their psychology and their affective behavior, or like their affects in some particular, right? And their emotions. So this is how I looked at it from that perspective, is how racialization, fetishization, issues of masculinity, exoticization gives rise to this idea of a racialized emotions, right? So I'm drawing from Boinga Silva's work on racialized emotions, in which he talks about racialized emotions are not something that is, so basically emotions and are not something that is just a psychological disposition related to just an individual. In fact, emotions in that category is something that has to do everything with the structure and agency. You cannot just be feel these feelings. You can't just feel these feelings because you are an individual. It has to do with your social location. It has to do with your social position. It has to do with your, a lot of things to take part, to inform of how you feel. So this is what Bunila Silva talks about, and also Sarah Ahmed's work is also pretty integral in this understanding, especially her book on cultural politics of emotions and stuff. So now coming back to what my participants have to talk about what do they feel when they're being racialized on this app? How do they react to it? How do they come to terms with it? How do they navigate their emotions when someone is only desiring them because of their race, or someone is not desiring them because of their race, right? So I highlighted three sort of dominant emotions that uh, were prevalent in all of the interviews, you know. So the first was this feeling of hollowness, you know. And why do we as individuals feel hollow? And how does race has to do with this feeling of hollowness, right? What is the relationship between race and feeling hollow, right? So this is what my participant had to say. So somebody has said this: queer men are not dying because of AIDS. They're dying because of not being desired. Not being desired because of your tribal status, not being desired because of the way you look, not being desired because of the whole casteism that is at play. I think when you place yourself in that position, you realize your own identity as a Northeastern and how we are perceived by society. Every time somebody has said no to me on the app because of my identity, I get this feeling of hollowness. I think our body still carries the pain that comes from people not desiring you. So, as my part, this person has to say about feeling hollow about because you're not being desired, because your whole identity is related to a group definition. So this is what I found very interesting as one of the affective responses, that is hollowness. So the affective responses of fear, and the affective response of fear is very integral to race and among Northeast migrants in you know in India, because it's when you see on the news, like there's always a racist attack happening. There is these are just consequential fear that people embody, right? Of being racially attacked, of being racially murdered in some sense. So, what does fear has to do? Because a lot of my participants have reiterated that, I was put in a situation where I didn't feel I was safe. I felt this, I was fearing for my life because, I was put in a position where a person could hurt me, a person who I've met on the app could have just hurt me because of my identity. And these diatribes, like racist diatribes, like one of my participants said that, oh, who wants to sleep with a Nepali like you? Because this was in response because by that person who he was talking to, because he rejected that person. He said, I don't want to meet you. So this, it's a very real fear that they encounter on these on in the real world and also in the virtual world. So this is what this is the second form of affective response. And also the third and the final form of affective responses that I was interested in looking at is joy. When do we feel joy, right? So as a Northeastern, what what does joy means to you as a queer Northeastern migrant from the Northeast? What does joy mean to you? And many of my participants again reiterated these this feeling of joy, because they're like, I've also met people, because they said that they've also met people who were very nice, who were very kind to them, who with whom they went to queer pride events, because they met people on the app. So it's just not something that is, a negative emotions that they encounter or that they feel or they embody, but also this feeling of positivity, feeling of joy that encapsulates their interactions on the app. Yeah, so this is how I basically developed this chapter and my research. I think that's it. This is the references if you guys want to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this insightful and thought-provoking presentation. So before we can delve into the discussion. I think there is a request from Purni and I'm sure from others as well. If you could share the link to your chapter in the chat box, that would be great. Maybe people will want to read your chapter, right? If that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay, right. And meanwhile, Lobsang is sharing his chapter. I would request others to fill out the certificate forms that we have attached in the chat box. So it will help us to kind of circulate the certificate. So yeah, I would request all to fill it out. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, Lobsang has already shared his link. So yeah, I think we can take 1 or 2 minutes while others can fill out the form. And meanwhile, thank you so much, Lobsang, once again for this insightful and thought-provoking presentation. And you have helped us, see how digital spaces, which appears to be very, liberating. They are also, embedded within broader structures of race, sexuality, and masculinity. And your presentation also illuminated the affective dimensions of racialization, which is very important, I think, in the present context and very much underexplored, I feel. And it also compels us to rethink desire, intimacy, and power hierarchy in contemporary Indian dating scenario, I would say. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to further unpacking these layers in our discussion. So now I think others have filled out the form. So yeah, we can actually open the floor for discussion. So I have a lot of questions to you, but before that, I would like others to ask you questions, and we can actually Dheeraj has asked you to share your references so that we can read more. Okay, if you can share your screen, then maybe they can, others can take a screenshot maybe.
Yeah.
From
Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. Others, you are most welcome to turn on your cameras and ask Lobsang as many questions as you want.
Take a
It's a very,
screenshot.
thank you so much, Lobsang. Anybody has any questions? You can also write them in the chat box and we can read it out for you. Or you can just ask your questions to Lobsang. Okay, so I think I can start. Oh, Bhuni has asked. Bhuni has raised her hand. She can ask the question. Bhuni,
I
please.
just have one thing to share. I think it was Shoma ma'am who was saying something in chat regarding feminine spaces and Kali temple. I do not know if she wants to share about it, but during the conversation, like the ongoing presentation, she was saying something about it. So feel free first. I would like to give the floor to her first if she wants to say something, and then we can proceed with discussion. Yeah. Please feel free to add anything if you would like to. Otherwise, we will have more like all the other members, community. Please feel free to ask questions to Lobsang. I would echo Jagoshini that I also have some intriguing questions for you.
Okay, Shoma ma'am said that let someone proceed. So, okay, I think we can start with somebody else. So, Purni, if you have any questions or others, if anybody wants to ask any question, you can raise your hand. Or Purni, meanwhile, you can ask.
At first, thank you so much, Lobsang, for bringing up this important aspect. From the bottom of my heart, I have never imagined this as a research topic coming up. So kudos to you for that, for bringing up this unique aspect, because I do not think not many people has interlinked migration with dating spaces, with urban migrant workers. Then also you're bringing in queer. Then also you're bringing in emotions. So all the rare topics that have been there, I think, have blended in so well. And I am really amazed to see your literature references and your practical skills. Honestly speaking, like how you blended all the things together, it shows that you're really into your research and really very enlightening talk, I would first say. I learned a lot personally. And question as in, it's a very basic question, I would say. That how did you come up with this sort of topic? Because generally, I think even both Jagoshani and myself, we are both from Bengal. Generally, I remember when I was doing my bachelor's in Jadavpur University, we were given an assignment to do matrimonial review, not like dating space exactly, but like a reviewing of matrimonial, like how it is casteist or how it is coming up as, reproducing different forms of social discriminations and things. And there the difficulty was that to get into the space, like for example, we were doing our bachelor's back then, and it was like I remember our professor suggested us to create fake profiles, like fake accounts. But sometimes what had happened, to create emails, like random emails, and then create fake accounts in the profile. But I was very naive about all this creation of fake profiles. My email remained the same, but the names have changed. But then also, I think long back after years, I faced this sort of issues, like all the requests coming in. Hey, do you want to chat with me or something? How it has been happening with you? Like how really you got into this contacts? I think that is one of the questions that I have. And how did you develop this interest in this dating space? Along with, I do not know how migrant workers in Delhi have access to this dating space and everything. Like, isn't like generally the portrayal of migrant workers are like really perilous. They do not have access to resources. They are suffering from digital divide or something like this. Even when I talk to people who are doing something in Delhi, they have always visualized migrant workers in such lenses. So how was your experience in doing the field work? I would like to know about it, because you have kind of shattered all the common visuals, like how we generally portray migrant workers, not just racialized way, but in general visualization of a migrant worker.
Yeah.
I would.
The first one was
How was the
about
experience overall?
contacts,
If
right?
my question at all makes sense to you.
No, it does. Like you talked about
Yes,
how to
yes.
really
How do you get into the space?
it's
Yes.
very easy, I guess, to get into the space because you just have to make an account. And
Mm-hmm.
and to it's an you have to make an anonymous account in these apps because not many people want to disclose their identity, especially if you're queer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people would have a fake account name, a fake picture, but when you talk to them on person on the chat box, then you can actually share your pictures, your real, if you want to share pictures, so that So it's I guess very easy to get contacts, uh, uh, in the sense that it's not you just have to download the app, and there's a lot of anonymity that prevails. So it doesn't infringe upon your personal life as such because you're not making a lot of them. It's all fake accounts, right? And second was the interests, right? I have been in Delhi for the last 7, 8 years, and I have seen the kind of covert and overt ways of racism that plagues people from the Northeast. So I was interested, and I was always interested, and like my PhD research is also on, this formation of racialized affect among Northeast migrants in Delhi in urban centers. So that is how I was interested in this topic, and this was also part. I've always been wanting to work on this research for a really long time, at least 5 6 years, because that was the time I saw like people were on the app, especially like specific mention of Northeast wanted, Northeastern boys, that sort of thing. So I was very intrigued. I'm like, why are you asking these racist questions? Why do you have a profile bios that suggests that you're only interested in Northeastern men? And so that was what intrigued me. And regarding the field work, it was, basically all I did was, since I was situated in South Delhi, basically. So I was on, and Grinder is basically the app that I did my digital ethnography on. It's an app, it's a location-based app. So you won't be able to find people near, if someone is there in North Delhi, or if someone is there in, I mean, you can put the location there, but like your primary location is supposed to be where you are located right now. So of course it is limiting as well. It has a lot of limitations as well, but that is why I wanted to do it in that, regarding Southwest Delhi. And regarding the field work as well, like the participants that I got, uh, introduced to, were people who were actually, using the app during that time. And also this idea of a migrant. I mean, I'm not migrant person from the Northeast. Oh, and why are they? I mean, the idea that we have of a migrant person, it's not something that is, assumed as someone who does not have desires, who does not want to form connection, if that is with a person. So I think these, uh, these, uh, I mean, I'm not saying that every migrant, queer migrant person who, I mean, they don't even, some people don't even know what queer is. Some people don't even know, identify themselves, because they don't have the vocabulary to, so for them, they just, it's just sexual things for them. It's not something that is, you give meaning to, because then it would, they would, you know, not partake in that thing, right? So I think, yeah, not saying that every migrant, this is not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at only people who are on the app, because there are also, as I mentioned, like fairly educated people. If they're coming to Delhi for tertiary education, for colleges, of course they are, and also just people who are working as well. Mainly people who are working in service industries or other form of occupation in Delhi, especially from the Northeast. They are fairly educated, and they've know, they can sort of understand, or rather be on the app and look for connections. Is what I hope I answered your question, Gurmani.
Yeah. It's you're mostly looking at skilled migrants who are really looking into educational spaces, who have certain forms of capital, and they have certain forms of resources, not just unskilled migrant workers. Because generally, the visualization of migrant workers, even in the news portrayal or everything that's coming up, mostly as okay, they are having perilous conditions, or they are having human rights concerns, even in the context of Delhi, racialized attitudes towards migrant workers from Northeast. They are suffering. These newses are actually mostly popularized, even in the public discourse, even in this. But you are looking at skilled migrant workers, and
Not in particular, I would say.
not in particular,
Not in particular.
but
I'm
yeah,
just, that
who
was
are on
not.
the app.
Yeah, basically, who are on the app.
Who are on the app. But I just want to like dig into deeper. Like if I was you, probably I would have, if they are comfortable, I would like to know what they do, like their occupational skill sets or something like
I
that.
forgot to mention that in my presentation, but it's there in the chapter. I talked
Okay.
about because to get participants, mostly who use Grinder is. I mean, I'm not going to get participants who are because I'm not going to be pasting it somewhere in the neighborhood or something like that. It's just people who have uh, some idea of social media, some idea of what the app is, would only. So I got participants because of that, because of the advertisement I did on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. So people who saw it, they forwarded to other people who were interested in it, and then at least I got like 10, 15 at first, but then only six agreed for the interview at the end. So
It's very intriguing with what you did, because it's very fascinating to learn about your research, and I am personally very interested to read your chapter. And thank you so much for answering my questions. Thank you.
We have another question in the chat box from Dheeraj. So, before using dating apps, I was not very much conscious about my body and facial features, but constantly getting rejection made me anxious and started affecting my mental health. These apps are formed to create connectivity, but it pushes you away from the peer community. What do you think? So, over to you, Lobsang.
I completely agree with you, Dheeraj, on this because, as what my research also talks about, is there is this idea that dating apps, especially queer dating app, is very subversive and are very helpful for the community to form connections and stuff. But they're also proliferating this idea of racial stereotypes, as I mentioned in my research, about a specific type of bodies that are desired on these apps, right? If you do not fit into that category of a hyper masculine or hyper feminine idea of a body, then basically you're rejected. And it has a very dilapidating you know it has very dilapidating conditions for people who are on this app, who are there to form genuine connections. And when they get rejected on the basis of it, and Grindr is famous for that. Basically, you earlier you can there's a filter on the app which says you're only looking for people to date within this range. I mean, that is all in every dating sites, even in straight dating sites. Like, these are the people ages I want to look at. But earlier, specific type of bodies, specific type of queer bodies that should be desired, and certain kind of bodies that are not desired. So, and that is how this idea it sort of reinforces this idea of conventional idea of beauty, conventional idea of masculinity is also reinforced in these apps. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I also have one question for you, Lobsang. So, I hope anybody else, if anybody else wants to go first, they can. Like, do you want to, or I can ask my question? If you want, you can raise your hand or something. Okay, Sharanya has shared her question. So I'll just read it out. So when you created an account on the app and mentioned that you needed research participants, I wanted to know how it affected your profile, I guess. Yeah, like, did people willingly approach you? And if yes, could you give an idea about their backgrounds? I believe through this one can understand the attitude of the people towards such researches where anonymity can be maintained. So yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in my methods section, I utilize this method called lurking. It's a digital ethnography method through which, you create an account, you just lurk, basically. You stay there for 3 months, just looking at the kind of profiles that you encounter, looking at, making a database of everything that you see on the app, right? So, and not necessarily interacting with it. So when I said that, I was looking for research participants, right? I needed research part. No, I did not. I needed research participants. I mean, I got a lot of messages before, and they were like, "Oh, what research are you working on?" And of course, I cannot ask people, "Oh, I would not know what their background is because it's anonymous, right? You won't know what, because it's not other dating sites where your profile is there, your education is there, what your job, everything is linked. And Grindr is just your face. It's not even your face. You have just a torso or like a biceps or something, and then you know. So it was much more easier, I would say, to do research for me in this domain. And I believe through LinkedIn. Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of good responses from people, especially on the app. They're like, "Oh, of course, I mentioned that I'm looking at race and marginality and stuff like that on the app." And I got a lot of good responses from like, "Oh, this is interesting. This is what," but like, no one actually came forward and said that, "Please, I want to be part of your research." Because it's such a taboo subject, and as a researcher, that is what you have to, negotiate and understand that, not everyone will be willing to will be helpful for your research, or not everyone will be willing to take part in your research as well. So I think that is what I good. And I think the second question is, how do dominant ideas of masculinities in cities like Delhi shape interaction within queer dating space? Yeah, I guess as I mentioned, like, these all these apps, they sort of reinforces this idea of masculinity, right? Although it is considered as a very subversive place, somewhere that, this inherent idea of a dominant masculinity or hegemonic masculinity would not exist. But in contrary to that, it does exist. So this is what my entire what I talked about in my presentation as well, that these sort of informs, this sort of hegemonic masculinity reinforces and reinforms every practices that are present in, whether it would be in the digital space, co-digital space, or would it be a physical space as well. So this is what I think.
Great. Anybody else has any questions, you can ask, raise your hand, or if you also want to share your own research, like if you have done similar research or whatever you have found, or any comments on Lobsang's presentation, you can do that as well. You're most welcome to do so. Or you can share that in the chat box. We can read that out. Meanwhile, I'll ask my question to you. So I have two main questions actually. So you have mentioned, many profiles seek, Northeast men identifying as quote unquote top. So I would ask you that, do you think that sexual positions are also becoming racialized in nature, along with obviously there is the sexual part obviously associated with it and gender part associated with it, but also do you think a racial aspect is also there? And also, do you think that dating apps are turning intimacy into something, into a commodity, basically something to consume rather than feel or be in a relationship, more than that a commodity, basically? So first question was that. So first you can answer that, and then I can ask you the second question. So yeah.
Yeah, yes, this is what my research talks about, and understand, like, examines basically what, a sexual position itself is considered, that is predominant of uh, northeastern bodies, right? So basically what my research looks at is how being a top is always associated with someone who's not northeastern, and top if you guys have read my research, is someone who does basically the penetrative role, and so there's a lot of dominance in that sort of position as such. But so this is how they sort of, referring to Foucault and other, like how does a subject becomes an object. This is how they objectivize a racial minority into fitting into a particular characteristics as effeminate, as someone who does not perform the dominating role in a relationship. I mean, it's just reinforcing what patriarchal ideals are at the end.
Okay, right. And thank you. And the second question would be that, did your participants share anything or, describe maybe how they assert their agency or whether they, assert their agency in any way on these platforms? So I would like to ask
Yes,
that.
definitely. Like out of the six participants, almost everyone were very, they had, how can I describe it? They all were very vehemently opposing this idea of racialization that, people were ascribing them, men were ascribing them on the app towards their bodies. So one of my participants was like, I have stopped interacting with people who have that written in their bios. I do not interact at all. I'll just block them because I think they want me because of my race, not because of whom I am as a person. So of course, there's a lot of. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that there's no agency, and there's no power, that they don't have any power when faced with that sort of racialization. But I'm talking about how they do have certain arenas of agencies through which they can participate and negotiate these ideas of dominations. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Lobsang. And anybody else? I think Uni has shared something in the chat box, so I'll just read it out. So I just want to add that I think this spatial angle of understanding a racist way of finding a suitable partner is there even in global context and even in Bengal, particularly in popular advertisements. For example, looking for a desi partner, quote unquote desi partner, Bengali partner, and it is fascinating to see how structural agencies are coming into play, connecting diverse intersectional approaches of race, class, gender when it comes to finding our partners. Even desires are socially constructed. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I totally agree.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Lobsang? Or okay.
Hello.
Hi, Yana, do you want to say something? I think.
Hi, sorry. I did my message.
Okay, right. So if you,
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry.
yeah, your voice is breaking, I guess. Is it just for me or others can hear her properly?
It's breaking in general.
Okay. Or my God, unmuted.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Jabashini.
Yeah. Thank you, Yana, and no worries. Anybody else has any questions, you can share that as well. Or we can wrap up today's discussion. Before that, I would again request you all to fill out the certificate form so that it's easier for us to circulate the certificates with you all. I'll just again share it with you so that it will take, I think, 1 minute to Yes, Hira just asked for the certificate thing. So yes, I'm sharing the form with you. So I'll just give everybody like 2-3 minutes to fill it out. It should not take more than that. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, comments, or you can feel free to ask them. And once again, thank you so much, Lobsang, for your thought-provoking and really insightful and very relevant presentation and research. And congratulations once again for getting it published with the Brill. So yeah, and I think very intriguing. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And if anybody wants to share their research with us, present your paper in one of our upcoming academic sessions, you can fill out the form and we will reach out to you soon. I'm again sharing that form as well if you want to. That'd be great. And also, we would again request Lobsang to share your more papers with us so that in future we can have more sessions with you. It was really very intriguing and very relevant, I would say. And it compelled us to think many things in newer ways, I would say, that we often overlook or we often, we take it for granted, or we tend to think that these spaces are liberating, but actually they are somehow reproducing the existing social inequalities, I would say. So yeah, I think everybody has filled out the form. Can you give a thumbs up? Like if you have filled out the form, then we can wrap up the session. Okay, great. Yeah, Corny, do you want to say something? You've raised your hand.
Just a small thing that is, I think this session would not have been possible without the support of our interns. So thank you so much, especially kudos to Orchana for all the insightful comments and live streaming this session, because otherwise it would not be publicized via YouTube and we could not hear it back later. And I just wanted to personally give her a little bit of appreciation, because I just got to know that she recovered from, like, she was hospitalized last week and she's still there with us. So yeah, thank you so much, Orchana, for being there and supporting this entire session. Also Maharna, Shoma ma'am, everybody, Kushumika, just a token of appreciation on behalf of Team Socioscopia who's there. So yeah.
Thank you so much, and also to our audience for joining this session and asking such relevant questions. So thank you so much, and we look forward to having you in our upcoming sessions as well. So now we can wrap up our session. So thank you, Lobsang. Have a